We're good? Yep. Good evening, everyone. I'll call, with the posted time having arrived and a quorum of members present, I'll call the Finance Committee for Tuesday, October 10th, 2023 to order. We have this session listed as Finance Committee Budget Session Number 1, although this being also our normal monthly Finance Committee meeting time. You'll see in the agenda we have a number of normal finance business items that we'll be taking. So this session won't be completely and only devoted to the budget, but we do have a few budget-related things as well. So item number 1 is minutes of our previous meeting from 9/26 of 23, copies of which are in the packets. Anyone need any revisions or corrections to the minutes? If not, I'll take a motion to approve them. Motion from Watson, second from Dinny. Further discussion? Seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None are opposed. That motion carries. So item 2, and these are things that also affect our budget discussions. Discussion and possible action authorizing a 3% general wage adjustment for non-represented employees effective December 24th, 2023. And so you'll see that there's a recommendation from the HR committee and what looks like the PowerPoint presentation they had about the discussions they had with Gallagher on some wage comparables. And their recommendation is a 3% bump in the non-reps. And we saw some similar things as we were working through our contracts with the unions who are represented and negotiate, but the non-represented employees don't have that luxury. So with that, you see the fiscal impact on the item is listed in the materials. And so I guess to start off the discussion, the fiscal impact citywide is $469,434. That is, that's a large impact to our budget, but, that also is reflective of what we're seeing happening in the wage market as well, if we want to attract and retain talent. I guess along that realm, does anyone have questions either for Mary Ann or for the finance director on this item? Go ahead, Doug.
Could you restate that amount? I'm showing 237. Am I on the wrong item?
I don't know. The fiscal impact shows 464 citywide and $300,012 for the general fund on the front of the resolution. So that's in our packet right after the minutes.
Okay, I got them in the wrong orders.
Okay. So here we would be here's where we would come out on the wage stuff, which, we also, when we delve into our budget workshops next week, one of the things we'll have to look at is cost to continue. If we approve this becomes part of your cost to continue, which, that is, would carry over that way. Under agenda item number 8, we'll consider a bunch of supplements. Those are new spending. That are not currently in our budget, but things that the departments feel they need. We rank and score that. But on this payroll end of things, does anyone have any questions on this? We do have the HR director here as well. If you have questions on the analysis that was done by Gallagher or the conclusions that were arrived at in HR.
I'll
Go ahead.
start things off.
Mike,
I
yep,
guess.
start us off.
I guess the big question is because this is a pretty substantial amount. How does it, if we're looking at the 2024 budget, how does this affect our mill rate and or the levy limit?
So the levy limits are based on CPI and net new construction. So, the CPI is pretty strong again this year. So, from a levy limit perspective, we should be fine. Usually the other limitation that we have is expenditure restraint, which again is where we get our about $1 million a year from the state. And the expenditure restraint, because of the new shared revenue funds that we're receiving, basically we have to file expenditure restraint form for 24, but it's not used to calculate our eligibility for the program. If we were eligible in '23, we are automatically eligible in '24. It becomes the new base. So there is really no threshold for '24 for expenditure restraint.
Okay?
Okay.
And, are we still operating in the context of mill rate? Are we still in realistic territory if we assume that roughly $25,000 is a penny on the rate? Or has
That would be the,
That's about where we're still at? I mean, that's where
Yes.
we've been in past years.
Yes.
So, I mean, just to kind of forecast what the impact is, I mean, if you take 469 divided by 25, that's how many pennies you're going to need
Yeah.
towards the mill rate. So, Sarah?
So it takes effect on the 24th of December, so that'll be a little adjustment we'll need to make for this year.
right, and it
Okay.
would be,
One
so
pay
minimal.
period only or
Yeah,
whatever?
Just
Okay.
a few days, yep.
Okay.
And really, it's only because we're starting on the beginning of pay periods. I mean, the other option you would be able to do is to move it to the first full pay period in 2024. That would be another option if you wanted to choose that. I think we moved to the December 24 date because all of the union contracts that are receiving bumps for '24 are effective December 24th. So it was really just a consistency.
Well, and while we have the ability to control the implementation of these and the amounts, we have found in the past that when we create a situation where non-represented employees continue to fall behind employees who have the power to negotiate their contracts, that we really start to dig a hole for ourselves that's difficult to come back out of if we don't find parity within the workforce. So, I mean, we've gotten behind on that before where we've frozen pay for the non-reps and then others get the bump, and that really, as an organization, puts us in a tough spot, especially if those effects start to accumulate and then you're really trying to find a way to attract and retain talent when, you find that your wages are not continuing to be market competitive, when someone could perhaps, drive 10 miles down the street and have the same job for more money. So I think we have to be mindful with those adjustments that we do have to keep up to the market. Does anyone have questions on any of this or any of the findings that came from HR? Or comments? Sarah, did you have one? Or you? Okay, Doug?
So just to the mechanics of this, we talked a little bit about last week. So whether we put this in as a cost to continue or if it's a supplemental request, because we really won't capture this increase from last year to this year per se, will we? Because it'll be a budget amendment for this year rolling into next year.
So because this takes effect 2024, it really takes effect 2024 because as we mentioned, there's only a few days in 2023. So we generally wouldn't need a budget modification because the financial impact would be so small, it would be absorbed within the individual departments' budgets. So this would be a '24 budget. And if you adopt the resolution, it would be built into the '24 budget that you adopt in November. So there's no need to amend a budget because you're going to adopt the budget at that point.
So I think what you're asking, though, is when the budget books come out that we're going to tear into next week, if we approve this, are these computations a part of that cost to continue? Is that?
That's correct. So
Yes,
that
it would be built in.
we see where that
Yep.
increase came from so that
Right.
it's not, so it's transparent.
Right,
Yeah.
and I think that is important that happens, because I think if we approve this tonight, we want the correct data up front for what the impact of that is. And so when we look at supplements are typically new spending or new needs. So if you're inflating or bumping the salaries of employees you already have, but not bringing on additional workforce. Additional workforce, I feel like, is a supplement because it's people that don't work here today. But if you're adjusting the pay scales of people you already have and work that's already happening, that really should be part of our cost to continue, but it certainly should be marked with an asterisk. When we tear into the nuts and bolts of the book next week, that should be a figure that appears right up front, is, what the competitive wage inflation looks like. So,
So just for clarification, it would be built in each individual department's budget. So when you see, the finance department's budget, the 3% is in there. If you're looking at the police department, the 3% is in there. It would be across the board, that 3% would be built in.
Okay. So yeah, I think as long as we have that properly marked on the front end, and we have that in the books when we distribute them, I think that helps us absorb when we try to make other decisions and weigh other priorities and rank things, if we know really how far ahead or behind we are from the start. Anything else on this topic? If not, is there a motion to approve the item? Motion by Watson, is there a second? Second by Denny. Further discussion? Seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None are opposed. That motion carries. Let me switch back to the agenda. There we go. Okay, item number 3 is discussion and possible action regarding authorizing health, dental, vision, and supplemental insurance plan design for 2024. You'll see we also have that with a recommendation to approve from the HR committee. They've done some studies about, what they're offering to employees and what the costs associated therewith are. And, it looks like they're giving us what they feel is their best option. Does anyone have questions on those benefit packages at all? And the cost of those also will be netted into that new budget that we'll work our way through in our workshops. Go ahead.
Are we
Doug.
rolling the CCIT in here now, or?
It's the next item, but they pay for those services, right? So they
Correct.
get back billed. So we accept them into the plan, and then they get billed for whatever they represent in the budget, like a fee-for-service type
Right, okay.
thing. So yes, that's part of it. So this is just the plan design as proposed by HR. Anybody have anything on that? If not, is there a motion to approve the plan design? Motion by Martins, is there a second? Second by Lukens. Further discussion? Seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None are opposed, that motion carries as well. Item 4 is discussion and possible action regarding authorizing CCIT inclusion on the city's health, dental, vision, and supplemental insurance plan design for 2024 and 2025. And so, given that IT is a joint department, actually it's a department that operates 3 different ways between NCHC, the county, and the city. They are authorized by us to enroll in our benefit plans, and then they are billed for those plans, for the costs associated therewith. Any questions on that at all? That also has come forward with the recommendation that we approve. Is there, go ahead, Doug.
No, I'd move to approve.
Oh, motion to approve from Denny, then is there a second? Second from Lukens. Further discussion? Seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None are opposed, that motion carries. Item 5 is discussion and possible action approving a budget modification for the Wausau West Generator Project. You'll see a memo from Public Works Director Lindman in your packets indicating that there is some cost overage on that project. They're requesting a supplemental amount of ARPA to carry that across the finish line. It looks like, was it 75,000? I have to switch back to the packet. 70. So 70,000 in additional ARPA to get that finished. That was one of the projects that we approved and sent forward to begin with.
Yes.
Thoughts on that committee or questions at all? We do have the funding available for that still in the ARPA. We've not earmarked all of it yet. Is there a motion to approve? Oh, Sarah, go ahead.
So that extra 70, how much, do you know how much we'd have left then? I know that's like a,
I'll look it up.
okay.
It's just over $1 million.
I thought it was, yeah.
Does anyone have questions for Eric on the project at all? Okay. We'll have Mary Ann just firm up a number for us quick there before we make that decision, and
So was it just construction that sort of came in over, or what part of the project?
And we also want the electrical engineers to come in, so there's some construction oversight costs with that as well. Yes.
okay. Just search out that spreadsheet and just see where we're at on our leftover.
go into the folder that I need.
It's never easy.
I mean, I'd make the motion anyway.
Okay.
I mean,
All right.
I think it's something we have to finish.
Right, I think,
regardless,
yeah, I
so-
mean, the fact that we
but
have it
just-
previously approved makes sense, so.
It's just sort of nice to know like what we have left, but.
Right, and I do think as part of our budget process, that is something that we should, again, just take a cursory look at, knowing because we had had some discussion on, even on affordable housing projects, if certain projects that we've earmarked funds for are not going to be able to take flight, then we either need to find alternative projects or reprioritize the things that we've approved so that we get our spend down in on time. We're not interested in sending ARPA back to Washington, so with that, I'll take the motion to accept the item then from Watson. Is there a second?
I'll
Second
it.
by Martins. And then we'll see if we can get that number.
The report from August shows 1.6 million left.
Okay. And I don't know that we've approved anything else since. We took stock
I
of
know.
it, we put a pin in a couple
Right.
things, but we've not spent down anymore. So we should
Yep.
be sitting okay on funding then with that. Any additional comment then on that item? If not, members in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None are opposed, that motion carries. Item number 6 is discussion and possible action approving budget modification for the 2023 facility improvement capital projects. And so we've got a memo in our packet on that as well. And so it looks like just some differences between bid and actual as well there. It looks like they're looking for a budget modification. Total request of $42,000 to carry all those things across the finish line that we've previously started. Anybody have questions for Eric on that at all? If not, is there a motion to approve those additional $42,000 from bond proceeds? Motion from Lukens, is there a second? Second from Denny. Sarah?
I guess I just have a question about the last sentence. I think of the memo, the 3714 contingency will only be used if required. Can you just, I don't know, I'm trying to
Yeah.
wrap my mind around it.
Yeah, usually we have a small contingency once we get things out to bid. That way, if something comes up that's unforeseen, that's $500, $600, $700 that we have to approve, I wouldn't have to come back here to do that. But if we don't need that, then that'll just go back into the fund. That we just won't use it for anything else. Yeah.
Okay. It's always good to have a little extra in case you open something up and find it's not what you planned
Right.
for. So, okay, so with that, we've got a motion and a second on the floor then to approve that budget mod. Members in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None are opposed, that motion carries as well. Item number 7 is discussion and possible action on accepting dedication of a portion of 7119 Stewart Avenue for public right-of-way. And so we've got some information and a map in the packets on that. Does anyone have any questions on that? This is along that Stewart Avenue corridor that we've been talking about, projects and easements along for our last couple of meetings. If not, is there a motion to approve? Motion by Denny, is there a second? Second by Martins. Further discussion? Seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None are opposed, that motion carries. Okay, and so we've got, item 8 is our supplemental budget requests. Knowing though that we want to be on time for the start of council at 6:30, maybe we should take 9 and 10 first, and then come back to item number 8, and we can get as much through that as we possibly can. Get through our business agenda first, and then if we need to put a hold on it a little bit until our next week's meeting, we certainly could do that. So item 9 is discussion and possible action regarding the 2023 audit proposal from Clifton Larson Allen. And you'll see the documentation that Mary Ann received that's in your packets for that, proposing that we would use Clifton Larson again for our audit. So did you have comment to offer on that, Mary Ann, at all?
Just a bit of clarification. So back, and what's in your packet shows the last time we went out for RFP, that was for the period 2016 to 2020. And then there was a one-year extension built into the contract for '21, which we, brought forth to you. And then last year, we asked if we could extend, given the workload that we had with the Workday implementation. So again, I'm asking if we could extend 1 year, again, because of workload due to all of the implementation, including the new budget software. When we went out for our RFP, it was, the CDA was included, and they really just are piggybacking on our audit because they are, a separate entity that has its own separate audit, and they get billed completely separate from the city. And the auditor wanted to speak with the CDA about their fees, if they would choose to extend for '23, and the staff at the CDA were unavailable this week to talk to them. So I'm sure Liz is expecting that the CDA would be included in this. We could wait until the next meeting to include the CDA, but again, we don't really have the authority to commit the CDA to that audit. That would be their board's responsibility. But the city's audit, the portion that we're responsible for, would be $72,400. So you can see what I've done on the chart is to show kind of the comparables. So, when we're looking historically, 2020 was $30,925. If we were just looking at those groups for '23, it would be $48,000. These are the next items would be add-ons. If you recall, we used to prepare our own financial statements, and again, based on the Workday workload, we weren't able to do that last year or the year before. And so we would be asking again for their assistance in 2023's audit. So that's $9,500. Updating the leases, GASB, this last year, we had to hire them to do lease accounting for us. They would be updating that data for the '23 audit, that's $3,000. And then there's a new GASB release, which is affiliated or related to the leases, and that is basically looking at any agreement that you have for software where you're using software as a service. So a great example would be the Axon contract that we have, if I'm using that vendor properly, or Workday for that matter, where we're every year in a contract with them.
Subscribing to a cloud
Subscribing,
hosted something.
yes.
Okay.
And so we have to evaluate each one of those contracts, make determinations based on the new regulations to determine if it's a liability that needs to be recorded on our books and an asset, or if it is not. And so, again, based on our workload, we asked the auditors to give us a quote on that. So that would be $8,000. And then they now have a technology fee that they charge. So $72,400 for the audit. That's what
Okay.
it would be.
And you do expect that after we get over the hump with the Workday implementation, you'd likely be able to take that statement prep and things back in-house in future years, right? Or,
Yeah, we're going to have to evaluate staff. In the past, that has fallen on the assistant finance director, and in the past, we've had CPAs as the assistant finance
Right.
director, and we're going to have to look at skill sets within the department to see whether that
whether we
exists.
have those skills. Okay.
Yes, because we may no longer have those skill sets.
Sure,
I mean,
sure.
I would have the skill set. I don't have the time, though,
Okay.
to do them. I did them the first year after Bobby left, but I can't
Every year.
do it, yeah.
Okay.
So we'll have to look.
Okay. So, yep, that's something we certainly can consider. So with that, anybody have questions on that process? Is there a motion then to extend another year based on the proposal that's in the packets? Motion by Denny, is there a second? Second by Martins? Oh, Liz, yep, Liz has a hand up on WebEx. Go ahead, Liz.
Thank you. I just wanted to chime in about the CDA. We do have a board meeting scheduled for October 24th.
Oh.
We have, I know, sorry, Mary, I'm bugging. for a while, to make sure that we could be able to piggyback. I know we have a strong interest in doing so if this extension is passed.
Okay, so why don't we include in our approval the directive that CDA be allowed to and accepted to piggyback if their board so approves? Is that okay with the motion and the second?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So then recognizing, and we'll recognize through our minutes also that if CDA board approves that participation, that they would automatically then be allowed, approved to piggyback on that audit with the city. Any other questions? If not, members in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None are opposed. That motion carries. Item number 10 is discussion and possible action to authorize an offer to purchase 811 and 815 Grand Avenue and a related budget modification. We do have this item agendized also for closed session. This is a real estate transaction. So is there any open session material to be discussed before we would enter into closed? There is not, I see from the staff. So would someone want to read the closed session wording? And we'll take this item before we dive into the supplements. Go ahead, Michael. Thank you.
I make a motion that we go into closed session pursuant to sections 19.85 sub 1 or chapter, paragraph E of the Wisconsin statutes for deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session relating to authorization of staff to negotiate an offer to purchase of 811 and 815 Grand Avenue and related budget modification.
Okay. Is there a second for Michael's motion? Second by Watson. We'll do a roll call vote. Denny?
Aye.
Martins?
Aye.
Lukens?
Aye.
Watson?
Aye.
I'll vote aye as well. We'll convene closed session in the Maple Room and then return to this chamber after. Thank you.